Also, the cafe.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
Did that in one take. In one take.
Yeah.
Well, he could actually, since Chris works there too, we can underwrite both of them.
Others not so much. Just totally paying attention.
And I think he'll get more bang for his buck.
I think you would too.
I really do. I think he does appreciate that.
Well, bye, y'all.
Very good.
See you later.
Be safe.
You too.
You want to set that?
Issue, you and me. Alice stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employee. Alice is working penalties based on higher.
Good morning.
And more month than money. We're the majority of our Kansans. We need programs that work for us as hard as we work for our state and families. Hey, policymakers and politicians, it's time to meet Alice. Who is Alice? All of us.
Wow. Nancy? What's your new headphone? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, you heard the music. It's after 9 o'clock, and so you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here on KBF 88.3 FM, Voice of the People Community Radio. I'm your voice. I'm your host for the workplace, Toney. And as always, my co-host, the beautiful, vivacious, fierce Denise, Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell is in studio. How you doing this morning, Denise?
I am well. Thank you for asking. Grand Rising humans.
Yes. So we got a great show for you today. Got some things we want to talk about. But first thing I want to do is just let people know, let our listening audience know, we are in Players Drive. We are in Players Drive. I also want to thank everybody that came out to the Eclipse party that we had here at KABF 88.3 in the parking lot. We had backyard fish fry. We had Charles as the DJ. We had music. We had fun, and the Eclipse was so awesome. So I'm glad everybody, and I'm so grateful everybody stopped by. Also, we are, like I said, we are in Players Drive for over almost 40 years. It will be 40 years in August that KABF has been the voice of the people here, not only in Central Arkansas, but around the state of Arkansas and bordering states where we could be heard. A 100,000 watt platform for your voice, for your concerns, for enlightenment, empowerment, for education. And so, but we are sustained by you, the listening audience, and your donations and your pledges. So while we in Pledge Drive, make sure you give a donation or pledge to KABF 88.3 FM. You can go to www.kabf.org and you can give your pledge online. And while you're there, when you hit the donate button, become a sustaining member of KABF 88.3 FM. Your monthly contribution will help go to the sustainability of KABF. If you don't want to go online, you can give us a call at 501-372-6119, and you can talk to our program director, Charles Ray, and you can give your pledge and donation to him. Or you call one of your favorite shows at 501-433-0088, and you can give your pledge to one of your favorite hosts or DJs. You can also send a check money to 2101 South Main Street here in Little Rock, Arkansas, 72206. Or if you're out and about, you want to stop by the station, which quite a few people do, come on by, come on up the steps and give your pledge in person. And as always, we will make sure you don't leave empty-handed. We will make sure you leave with something, a CD, album, a t-shirt, coffee mug, a hat, a bumper sticker, a pen, but we will show our appreciation when you're stopping by the station in person. But just remember to give, to donate, so that KABF can continue to be the voice of the people for 40 more years. And before I get to my announcement, I'll give.
I don't have any announcements.
Okay, well, you want to have an opportunity to greet the people? I know you said hello earlier. I don't know if you had anything else to add to that. Okay, so we got a couple of announcements about 3 announcements I need to read out. Central Arkansas Association of Black Social Workers, UA Little Rock Toney Student Center, an in-person event, screening and panel discussion of Hush, a documentary film on Black mental health. Registration is $10. Registration with CEU is $30. Tickets are available on Eventbrite. Hush, Help Us Say Help is a documentary film by author and director Antoine Lindsay. Hush, through a series of interviews and reflections, explores the continuing impact of generational trauma, stigma, and silence on mental health within the Black community. The film's tagline, "What we don't say is what we don't say is what hurts the most." Saturday, April 13th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. UA Little Rock Toney Student Center, 3259 South University, Suite, room 3201, Little Rock, Arkansas, 72204. The panelists will include Michael Eubanks, Nakia Williams, Yolanda McCullum, and Ruby Welch. And once again, that's Saturday, April 13th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Toney Student Center on the campus of UA Little Rock. The Arkansas State Claims Commission will hold hearings on April 12, 2024, beginning at 9 a.m. These hearings will take place via Zoom. Members of the public wishing to observe the Zoom hearings may obtain the conference call details by calling the Commission's office and asking to speak with Sabrina Height. If there are questions, please contact the Commission office at 501-682-1619. And so this is anybody that has a claim against the state of Arkansas for whatever reason. That's why they hold these meetings every month. And if you know someone or you just want to be see how that works, go to the Zoom call and get the Zoom invite so that you can be a part of it. Pledge Drive Hangout for our fellow radio hosts, DJs, members, and listeners to come together Tuesday, April 16th, 5 to 7 p.m. That's happy hour at Whitewater Tavern. And so those are announcements.
I do have a couple of announcements, Tony. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Sage Health cordially invites you to our Senior Resource Fair. It's Friday, tomorrow, April 12th, 2024. Location 410 South University Avenue, Little Rock, 72205, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Light refreshments will be served. Bring a friend. You can RSVP at 501-400-0481, 501-400-0481. The vendors include AARP, CareLink, Care Patrol, House About It, Division of Aging, Adult and Behavioral Health Services, and many more. And we've also got Domino's in the Park at the museum happening tomorrow, Friday, from 5 to 7, 501 East 9th Street on the 3rd floor in the community lounge. We would love to see you there.
Okay, so phone lines are open at 501-433-0088, 501-433-0088. So there are a couple of things that I was thinking about this discussion this morning, starting yesterday. There were some things that were running through my head that I want to talk about, and trying to piece it all together. And so this morning, in conversation with Daniel, who does the Nevermind in the Morning show on Thursdays. Jesse. My mistake. Jesse. I'm thinking about Wednesday. Never mind. But also, what's on my mind, because when I said never mind, for those of you who've been listening for many, for at least the past 5 years, Wes Howerton is coming back to the Nevermind show. He's going to come back on Fridays, starting tomorrow. Wes, he basically started and built the Nevermind Morning Show. He used to do it 5 days a week. And so he had to take a hiatus to get his business going. But he has been missing the show, missing the station. So starting tomorrow, Wes will be back.
What time?
7 to 9 a.m. So, in thinking about these, all these different things that run through my head, one of the things I just want to talk about and encourage. So, Starbucks, there has been a move across this country for Starbucks to organize. And so they started on the East Coast, and it's just starting to spread across the country. And so the Starbucks store on Rodney Parham here in Little Rock, they held their election with the National Labor Relations Board, and they are unionized. They have the right to organize, and they are in negotiations for a contract. When the labor board came out, it used to be in the past, you would have to organize the whole company, from coast to coast. But when the labor board came out about 4 years ago to say that no, you can actually micro-organize. And what that meant that you don't have to do the whole company. You can, whatever store that company has, that store can organize within the overall company. And so that's great. There's another Starbucks store here that's in the process, and I don't want to call that store out just yet until they actually get it going, get the election going. But it's great because the history of Starbucks hasn't always been favorable to workers, to employees, to staff. And so to see that movement happening is a great opportunity. I think a lot more places are going to start, companies and stores are going to start taking advantage of this, just like Amazon did. And especially with the dollar stores. With the dollar stores, I think they are going to start also. I'm going to stop for a minute and take this call. Caller, you in there?
Hi, Toney and Steffi. How are you?
Hey, Steffi.
Hi, yeah, I was just hearing you talking about Nevermind, and I actually have a question for your show.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. I am creating a co-ed club ultimate frisbee team in Little Rock, inspired by a need in the community for a more positive and welcoming team option. And I am working with another friend who's an incredible leader, and we're creating this team. We're very excited about it. And we had the idea of creating a team jersey with 9 blackbirds on it, representing the Little Rock 9 and the Beatles song Blackbird, which is, was inspired by the Little Rock 9 and Civil Rights Movement. So our intention is to celebrate one of the most consequential civil rights moments in history as a team from Little Rock. And we're just looking for guidance on an education on whether this is an appropriate idea.
I don't see a problem with it. I think that would, anytime you can bring attention to the struggles of the civil rights movement, the struggles of Black people, some of the issues surrounding the civil rights movement. I think anytime you can bring attention to that, I think it's appropriate. What do you think, Denise?
I think that there are still members of the Little Rock 9 here and locally. There are family members of the Little Rock 9 that are here locally. They have, we have contacts with those members of the Little Rock 9 that live in other countries like Canada, like Minnie Jean Brown Trickey. So I think that part of the conversation should include those voices as you move forward in whatever it is you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. Is there, okay, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I will work on contacting.
Yeah, and we can give you a connect if you give us your information. You can do it offline, but if you give us your information, we can connect you to some of those people so that you don't have to do all of that legwork alone.
That would be so wonderful. Thank you so much, Toney and Denise. I appreciate it.
No problem. And so when you're talking about workers.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So the people that are at Starbucks, those employees, and they have now unionized and they're working on a contract. So whatever it is that they are negotiating only covers their store?
Yes, it only covers, it only covers their store.
So the other Starbucks that's getting ready to do the same work in Arkansas, could they not, once they get their contract, can they not work together?
Yes, because it's all of it is falling under the umbrella of Starbucks Workers United. They created that association to help each store that will organize or become organized, to give them a template of some things that you want to see across the board in each store. And that way it won't be that if a worker goes from one store to the next store, you got something totally different. You know, you want to have some type of continuity that will be in the same contract no matter where you go.
So if that's the case, why does if they have a template where all of them are doing the same things, what's the purpose of each store having to do it on their own? Why can't all of the Starbucks now be under this one umbrella of Starbucks United?
Well, because you have some stores that probably don't want to be organized, and then you have to look at whether it's a franchise store or if it's a company-owned store, you know, and you might have some issues there. But once a store does become organized, it can fall under that Starbucks under Starbucks United, and the Starbucks United, like I said, it's just an organization to guide these contracts. But each store, each store will have some of the same issues, but they may have different issues, and so each store will have that flexibility or that opportunity to create something within that store for that store also.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I was just wondering why everybody has to start their own thing instead of being able to just kind of fall under the same umbrella. That's what I was trying to
and I think part of that is going back to what happened with Amazon and some other entities that want to organize, because you're not organizing the whole company. Because if you organize the whole company, then you would have that standard contract across. But trying to get an election sometimes with all these other stores, you may have people who say, well, I want to be part of a union, and then you run the risk of not winning the election for that. And so I think what the labor board was trying to do is say, instead of this old standard where you have to do every store or every facility, if this one facility wants to organize, then let that facility organize.
Seems like Arkansas should take a page from Amazon's book, because when we are organizing as citizens to get things on the ballot, it used to be that we didn't have to have a voice from all 50 counties, and now that so it used to be that we didn't have to have it, and now we do. So Arkansas is going backwards as it relates to how they're going to move so that the people can have more freedom to control what happens to them in this country. I mean, in this state. And so it seems like they need to take a page from Amazon. I just thought about it when you said it.
Yeah, and so one thing that a lot of people may not realize, and some may do, is that the voice is a powerful weapon, and action followed by the voice can be very, very successful. And what I mean is that if you start to raise your voice and raise concerns, then you take action towards those concerns, then you can see some movement in certain things. Now, the pushback is you're going to always have, whether it's business, whether it's government, to push back to silence your voice. And not only silence your voice, but once you take action, it's going to be a pushback to whether you're going to criminalize that action, whether you're going to retaliate to that action. Going back to something we have said, talked about on Community Voices, is that when someone, some Black person would go to vote, they would grab that Black person, torture them, burn them, and hang them, and leave them hanging on that tree as a reminder to any other Black person who attempted to vote. And so what would happen, you would have a little to no voter turnout from the Black community. And so you can use that analogy when it comes to organizing. Is that if we can retaliate against a few, or we can silence a few, then the turnout or the fear is that if I vote for an election or I become unionized, then this is what's going to happen.
Aren't there some laws though in the National Labor Board? Aren't there some rules against retaliation from the company?
It is. And the issue becomes one thing that when I'm talking to when I'm talking to employees, I tell them that it's better when you do open your voice, because the one thing that the labor board, and when you file an unfair labor practice, the one thing they're going to do, they can start connecting dots, and they're going to ask. And I have actually won some cases with the labor board where you cannot retaliate against organized activity as long as you're doing it within the structure of how it's supposed to go. And we were trying to organize a nursing home in Atkins, Arkansas. And the nursing home fired 3 of the leaders who were actually going out talking to other workers at the nursing home. And we proved, that this was straight retaliation. They could connect the dots, and they actually had to compensate these workers for being terminated and being retaliated against. And the workers had the opportunity to go back to the company or not. But the labor board did step in. So yes, there are rules for that. But a lot of times you have workers who are so afraid. They're so afraid of losing their job. They're so afraid of other co-workers retaliate against them that they won't open their mouths.
I think this is why we continue to have the conversation, particularly for Black folks, not just Black folks, but particularly for Black folks, about how we need to begin to reimagine our world the way that our ancestors lived, where we were self-sustaining, like where we were independent, where we had our own businesses, where we grew our own food, where we co-opt together so that we can create a community, where we, what do you call it when you barter? Yeah, when you barter, hey, can I get a pound of sugar for some potatoes? We have to get back to that kind of living, because as long as we continue to invest in these systems and then give them this kind of power, then that's what binds our hands. Like, I can't be free because I'm worried about losing my job. I can't be independent because I'm worried about putting food on the table. But there are other ways that we can get the resources that we need to live an independent life where we're not worried about those kinds of things, and we have a voice and we're not afraid to use it.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems that happens is that capitalism has created these ideal jobs. Capitalism has created jobs, and now capitalism has to have someone working these jobs, because we have, as a society, we have become dependent on certain things. We have become dependent on a dollar store. We have become dependent on a fast food restaurant. We have become dependent on retail shopping. We have become dependent on going to the service station, and because into the producer. And so if you could strip away all those things, it does not require someone to be there to make sure that they're in service to the customer. And if you can get rid of that, then yeah, I think that type of system works. That barter system works, because when it did work, you didn't have all that other stuff. Everybody, you had to be self-sustaining. But I think now so many people are looking for convenience. They're looking for how can I get this, without, how can I become a consumer without being a producer? And I think if you're a producer and a consumer at the same time, and like I said, if I'm producing my own food, if I'm producing my own way of electricity and power, if I'm producing my own water, I'm producing my own household needs. If I'm producing all that, then I can consume, and I don't have to depend on somebody else who is producing.
But the system of capitalism also creates competition. So I'm not trying to get rid of the retail store or the convenience store. I'm saying you own it yourself, like you own it. And then therefore you have a voice because it's your business, and you can do whatever you want to do with your business, and you don't have to say, oh, I can't speak up because I'm worried about losing my job. Because if you are the owner, then that's not your concern. So I'm not suggesting that we get rid of the stores. I'm saying just because capitalism has created a need for somebody to work there, don't mean I have to be the one that works there. And it doesn't mean that I'm saying you collectively, you have to be the one that works there. There are other options available for you, and capitalism will support your competitive business, just like it supports the fact that we got who is this? We got Walgreens on one corner, and you have CVS on the other corner. You'll have a Exxon right here and a Shell right here. Then you can have whatever this retail store is, and the one that I own on the other corner. So I'm not suggesting that we get rid of the businesses. I'm suggesting that we own them.
Yeah, I can get with that. That we do own them, and that we work for ourselves.
And create your own business and work for yourself.
Yeah,
And so we can have a voice that stops all of this construction that's going on with these apartment buildings. We keep all of these apartment buildings, and I keep saying every time I pass one, I say, that means if you live in an apartment, you don't have any land. You don't have any land, you can't grow your own food. Like, I feel like this is all part of the design. And I feel like we talked a minute ago about connecting the dots. We got to start connecting these dots, or continue to.
yeah, and that's the thing. When you start having conversations about certain things, and you try to get people to connect the dots, the one thing that really amazes me is when you hear people when you talk about land. Hey, buy you some land, where you can grow your own food, where you can build your own house, where you don't have to be paying rent. And then it goes back to this. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. That so many people are looking for convenience, and because they're looking for convenience, they're not seeing the negative effects of that convenience. And
But it can't be convenient to live in an apartment. My friends pay more for their apartment than I pay for my house.
Well, when I say convenience, I'm not talking about financially, just financially. But I hear so many people say, hey, I don't want a house, I don't want any land. Hey, I don't have to cut no grass. I don't have to, if something goes wrong, they're going to fix it, and all these different things. That's what they're looking at. But then when you say, well, okay, but what happens if you live in an apartment where they don't do any of that? There's so many people who may want to live, may want to have a house, and that's where the system comes in that creates all these barriers for them not to have it. But for those people who, because when they build these high-end, what I call high-end apartments, and you're right. When I look at people and say, you're paying $1,200 for a 2-bedroom, or a 3-bedroom apartment, you're paying $1,200 or more. You have to have, because now they do credit checks. So your credit had to be good enough to get into this apartment complex. That means your credit is good enough to get you a house. So why do you not want a house? Oh, I don't want to go through the hassles of it. I don't have to pay no taxes. I don't have to do none of that. But you don't own this. Somebody else owns it. You're making money for somebody else. If you buy a house, not only do you get equity, you building for your future with this house, because that house becomes money. Oh, yeah. But, I like the convenience of being in this apartment. And so it just really.
I ain't talking to them people. I'm talking to the people that want to connect a dot that says, I understand that in the world that I'm living in right now, and the way that it is going, because who is that says that the present is just a pass through another door? The way that we're going right now, that's my whole point, that if we connect the dots right now, you are not going to be able to be self-sufficient,
right,
living in an apartment where you cannot have land to grow your own food. Then you're forced into the system of what do we have, the food apartheid. And so you got to travel to get the food, and the food that you get harms your body. It harms your body, so now you need to go to the doctor. You can't go to the doctor because you don't have insurance. I mean, so all of this is connected. So if that's your attitude, then I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the people that are saying, yes, I'm beginning to realize, I'm starting to wake up, I'm starting to pay attention, and I need to better position myself. Those are the people that I'm talking to.
And when you said that about the past, one of the things that I was reading this morning, and it was it was from yesterday. So the Arizona Supreme Court upheld the almost total ban on abortions in Arizona. And they cited a 1864 amendment in the Arizona Constitution that forbid any abortion at all. And so they upheld that. And so one of the things is we're talking about labor, we're talking about work, employees. That to me, not only does it take away choice from women to decide on their own about their bodies, but now it bleeds over into where it runs over into the workplace. And the reason it runs over into the workplace, if an employee wants to get an abortion, now there are a lot of health insurance that are group health insurance now that does not pay for it. It does not pay. It will not pay for the travel. It will not pay for the procedure itself. So now you have to go somewhere else, which in turn, it forces you, if you don't have paid sick leave, it forces you not to be able to get paid for that time. If you don't have time to recover, it doesn't pay for that. Now you have to, if you have to come back to work after the procedure where you don't have time for your body to heal, now that puts you at a higher health risk. So when you start looking at these laws that are being passed, especially these bans on reproduction, a lot of people are looking at it as just, oh, we're just saving this, we're saving this fetus, we're saving this baby that's been conceived, and they're not looking at connecting the dots, as we said, to all the other detriments that can happen. And what's so crazy about this is that now Republicans who have been basically asking for this, now that Arizona has upheld theirs, now these Republicans are coming back like, well, that's too harsh. Former President Trump came out and said, well, that, it went too far. So now you have, and this is when it just really bugs me to no end. They're flip-flopping with these politics, and nobody is caring about the basic human life. Everything becomes this political juggle. What can I get? What can I accomplish with my agenda? And they're leaving human life out. And I think one thing that needs to happen is we focus more on human life instead of our agendas. Then I think more can get done. Going back to even when we were talking a minute ago about business, about owning our own business, owning our own land. That's something that will help the quality of life for humans. I think that's something that we talk about. How can one of the things that we can do when it comes to reparations is that, hey, we're going to give you, we don't have to have 40. I think a lot of people say, I don't have to have 40 acres, but give me 5 acres somewhere where I can start to be creative and produce my own for the betterment of my life. And I think, when you start looking at all these laws, especially these abortion laws, they're really, really detrimental to the lives of women. And we really, really need to start looking at that. And we need to really get the people who are making these laws. It should be, you can't have men deciding these laws without women being a part
I think that I think we also need to start having broader conversations with the people that we are talking to. Need to get that.
Go ahead.
I think we need to start having broader conversations, because when you're having a conversation with a friend or with a person, they don't have to be your friend, and they say, I'm pro-life, then I think that we have to start asking the question, what does that mean? And then allow the person to define it for you, what they think it means, and then engage in conversation around that. And to begin to really push a person to say, okay, well then, what does pro-life look like for you? Because when you have a governor like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who says that she's pro-life, and then she does things like, well, I'm gonna prove to you that I'm pro-life. So we are about to have, we have Act 310 now that says we're getting ready to put up this monument to the aborted children, to the unborn children from 1973 up until, I guess, whenever this act was passed, because we are pro-life. But this is the same governor who would not extend postpartum services, provisions, services to people who had had a baby, to bodies who had had a baby. She would not extend it from 60 days to 12 months. So when you say you are pro-life, I need to know what that looks like, because I couldn't care less about a monument that's on the, and why is it on the Capitol grounds? I couldn't care less about a monument. And it's not going to be the state's money, but it doesn't matter. To me, the fact is, this is what you consider pro-life when you've got people that are alive and that are working and that are contributing to this society, that you say, oh no, I'm not concerned about your body, but the unborn children from 1973, I want to make sure that we honor them. So this doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense to us, but we don't take the time to say, oh, let's have a conversation about it. We just let people say stuff and we let them go on. Oh, well, you know, our governor is pro-life. No, she isn't. And so we need to begin to have these broader conversations so that we can really get into what's really happening, so that we can be more real and authentic in what we choose to participate in and what we choose not to participate in.
Right. And caller, we were in the middle of, I didn't want to break the flow of the conversation, so if you want to call back, got to. Also, when you talk about pro-life, and that's a great caller, you're in the air.
Okay, I just want to say, the future is the past into a different door. And if you just think about it, Alabama said the seed was a person. I don't know how they ever came to that decision. It certainly wasn't chemical. And you want to just think about what we're doing today and more time. Some other time history, Arizona, going back to a time when you couldn't even vote, didn't have the right next to be gone back to when the cave came, grabbed us by the hair and forced us set on it always. So it's just a reminder that we need to try and do whatever we can to make sure that when there are appointments and elections, that the right people in the position. That's what I would say. Thank you very much.
Yes, voting absolutely has to be a part of this conversation. That is where a lot of our power rests, in our vote. And so we have to continue to push this and push past the naysayers about, well, it doesn't matter. It absolutely matters how you vote, and it especially matters how you vote locally. Because when Ezekiel said they went back to, you said 1864, and so he said that was a time when we couldn't vote. It immediately made me think about what I had just said about making sure we're having deeper conversations. So when we hear people say, make America great again, and so what does that mean when you say make America great again? When was it great? So are you talking about in 1864 when Black people could not vote? Is that when you were talking about it was great? When we had, when there was enslavement, legal enslavement, when we had Jim Crow and the lynching, is that when it was good? Tell me what you mean. Tell me what that looks like. And a lot of times we are not having these conversations, and we don't have the conversations because you'll say, well, I don't even deal with people that when they say that, I don't even want to deal with them. But we do need to be in relationship with those people, because we do need to understand where they're coming from so that we can better position ourselves to challenge it. And so all of these dots are connected. Voting locally, having your own business, being self-sustainable, like all of this, having control over your body, making sure that you have a voice where you work, like all of it is absolutely connected.
Yeah, it is. And so going back to what you were saying about pro-life and Governor Sanders, and I agree that that putting this monument up will give the connotation to some people that, oh, we're going to celebrate these unborn children that were aborted, that's pro-life. But then in that same building where they voted for Act 310, we're going to vote to cut education. We're going to vote to cut, make it harder for people to get on Medicaid, Medicare, for children to get on Our Kids First. We're going to cut back on unemployment. We're going to your unemployment rights. We're going to cut back all, and also we're going to make sure that we take public money to give it to rich individuals, so that public education can basically just die. So we don't care about the education of poor Black, white, and Latino. We don't care about that. We don't care about their life, because we know that eventually they may end up in jail, they may end up in prison. So we don't care about them, but we care if they're born. And we want to celebrate those that haven't been born. And you have to start looking at things in that manner, because eventually it's, life is a circle, and in some way, somehow it's going to come back to you. And if you haven't thought about it, and as you said, Denise, you haven't had discussions about it, if you haven't opened your eyes to it, when it comes back to you, it may just roll over you. It may just, hit you like a train, and you're like, what happened? And that's what happens. That is what's happening with a lot of these laws, a lot of these bills that are being passed, a lot of these decisions that are being made.
And they talk about, Arkansas has the highest, I don't want to say the highest, but Arkansas has a very large rate about maternal mortality, infant mortality. We've got the rate of child poverty in this state. We've got the number of we are basically a food desert, this entire state. And so all of these things affect the lives of children. And so, yes, this is all happening in the same building. That out of one side of your mouth, you say you're pro-life, and then with your pen, you make a stroke that proves that you are not. And so we have to have these conversations to ask each other, why are you supporting this government? Why are you supporting this governor? Why? And I think we need to raise up and begin to put some initiatives on the in that would change things, because I really want to know how I can fight so that you don't end up with these majorities. It seems to me that if this is a government that is supposed to be for all people, that it should have representation for all people. Why is it that we've got a Republican-led Senate, a Republican-led House, we got a Republican governor, we got Republicans all across, we're outnumbered. Democrats are outnumbered. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even for the two-party system. But what we're looking at right now, it seems to me that there should be a law that says you got to have 51% of this and 50% of this. You cannot have this super majority. That doesn't even make sense.
And it goes back to something you just said, two-party system. In every other industrialized one, what they call, I just put it that way, in every other so-called, industrialized country, they have more than one party. They have a party, they have a socialist party, they have a green party, they got a labor party, they got a conservative party, they have all these different parties. So every segment of the population is being represented in that room. And now what happens is, because you have all these different parties, now you really got to work together to get things done, because I'm here for my people, for my party. And so I have to, we have to come to some type of agreement that benefits everybody, not just a few.
And that's what diversity looks like. That's what you call diversity. And what do we do in Arkansas? We fight against diversity because we've boiled it down to this game where it's black against white. And that's not all that diversity includes. And so we have this. And so I actually, at the Pyramid Eclipse Party on Saturday, we had the Arkansas Democratic Caucus was set up as as part of, as a vendor. I think that's where, yeah, or NAA, I think that's what it was. It may have been NAACP, I'm not really sure, but they had all of the, they had petitions that you could sign, but they also had voter registration forms. And I said, oh, I need this form because I want to change my party. I no longer want to have a party. And she said to me, Deborah said to me, that many of the people in Arkansas, many of the voters, they have listed for party optional. I said, I didn't know that. We don't talk about that enough, because what I'm feeling like is that I want to divest from this two-party system, because you've got it in your mind that if I'm a Democrat, I'm going to think and believe a certain way. If I'm a Republican, I'm going to think and believe a certain way. And I'm saying, no, I am a voter. I decide for myself how I'm going to think and how I'm going to believe. And you don't get to cater to me based on what you think I'm supposed to believe because of some platform that we have. And I think if we begin to do that, divest from this system so that it no longer tells us what we're supposed to think, then we can have a better, we'll have better results when we do go to the voter box. And so when I think about that, and I think about in this country, when you say Democrat, Republican, it's really two sides of the same coin. So you say, well, I'm a Democrat and I'm a Republican, but think about it. There are Republicans who can say tomorrow, I'm going to be a Democrat, and we don't even have to have a vote. The people that they say that they were serving when they were Republican, they don't even serve them anymore. Now they're Democrat, and vice versa. You can just become a Democrat, get voted into office, and then say, oh no, I've decided I want to be a Republican. And you can just switch your party as the elected person without having to go through another election. So it's like all of this is incestuous, is what it feels like. You do whatever you want to do, talking about we got a two-party system and we are a democracy. And all of those are lies. It's a lie.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to say something. It came to my mind a minute ago when we were talking about food insecurity and how Arkansas ranks. And Denise, I thank you for that analogy of what you're just saying about how insane this two-party system is. It's insane, because you're right. If you check, I'm a Republican, check, and I'm a Democrat, or you vote at either one, people are going to label you in that, and they're going to put a stereotype on you of what you think, what you believe. And it may be, you may not even believe all that. And most people, I think, it's a couple of things that they believe in the party, but there's a lot of things they don't believe about the party, but they still feel like I have to stay with the party. And that's just this disinformation. And one of the things I was going to say is that, so Arkansas is number one. I think it's top 3 in food insecurity, but it's number 1. I think it's 1 or 2 for child food insecurity. It's number 2 or 3 in obesity, but it's 1 or 2 in childhood obesity. Because you frame it, and this is what they do first. They talk about the obesity. They say we're leading the nation in obesity, not adult and child obesity. So to most people that hear that, the first thing, a lot of people, they think, oh, they sitting around eating. They just sitting around eating. So they got plenty of food, because they associate people who are obese with eating. That's one of the first things that people do. And so if that's the case, then they don't need this grocery store in this neighborhood. They don't need this. Or all they need is a Dollar General. All they need is a Family Dollar. But what they're not looking at is that a lot of the obesity isn't coming from overeating. It's coming from the chemical laced food that they're eating. It comes from the processed food that they're eating. It's coming from the steroid meat that they're eating. And so that, and this is just my opinion. I will tell you right now, I don't have these research facts. I don't have that. This is just my opinion, just based on what I see. And I may be wrong, but this is what I see. They tell you one thing. They give you disinformation on this one side. So when they start taking things away, they can, you're looking like, okay, that's a good thing. But then when you realize that, hold up, I got all these different medical issues, I got all this going on, and it's not like I'm surrounded by food. And then how can you have a state that ranks in the top 5 in every agriculture category? How can it be a food desert? It does not make any sense to me.
It's intentional. And so what it sounds like, listening to you want to take the call?
Yeah, let me take this call real quick. Caller, you on there?
Good morning. I'm not gonna hold you long, but, let's send out prayer for the O.J. Simpson family. He has passed away.
Okay, all right. Bye. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if we were gonna have a moment of silence.
Oh.
I didn't know what you were gonna do. So with listening to you, and for people who are thinking in this way, it just reminds me of what many of us continue to think about on a regular basis, is how this world is so far away from facts. We operate so far away from facts, because a person like me who has been thinking about weight for quite some time, most of my life has been thinking about weight. You cannot maintain your weight without eating. Like, you have to eat. And so a lot of times people think that, oh, I'm going to go on a diet so that I can lose weight. And so they don't eat, but they don't lose weight. And it's because you are not feeding your body, you're starving your body. So when you finally do eat, your body grabs hold to every bit of what you have given it, and it keeps it, it holds it. And so when you do that, then you are not allowing yourself to burn it. Like, it's a whole factual, scientific process of what's happening in your body with the food. So people that believe like that are not listening to, nor interested in, or doing the research to learn about the facts.
Right.
You are more concerned about the propaganda that you are being fed because it just sounds good, or you're more concerned about this cult of personality that we live in. If the Republican says it, if Donald Trump says it, if Barack Obama says it, if Oprah says it, then we want to believe it, just because we have, what's the girl name? Taylor Swift or Beyonce. We have these figures that we hold up and say, well, if they say it, then it must be true. And that is not the case. And so we've got to realize that much of what's happening to us is that we are allowing people to lead us who don't know nothing.
You're right. And then here's something else. That's why I say you have to connect these dots. So when I was growing up in school, you had a 15-minute morning recess. I mean, you would get to school. I think school would start like at a quarter to 8. By 8:10, you had a morning recess. Then you had mid-morning, some type of gym, some type of activity you would do. Then you had a 4-hour lunch. Then you had an afternoon recess. So you were constantly moving. You were constantly exercising. And now, in some schools where they you may have this 1 10-minute recess period. Then after lunch, they give you take a nap.
Yeah, and they also have it where there are lots of schools when they want to punish the children, they want to allow them to go to recess.
Yes.
If you get in trouble, then you can't go outside and play. And so we don't understand the science behind play. We don't understand the science behind exercise. We don't understand the science behind obesity. We don't understand the science behind anxiety and depression. And we're not concerned about facts. We're only dealing with people's feelings, and we've got to get beyond that. That's why we have these leaders that are leading us talking about we can't talk about Black race relations, especially as it relates to Black folks, members of the African diaspora, because I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't want my children to feel a certain kind of way. I'm not concerned about your feelings, sir, ma'am, gender non-conforming person. I'm concerned about the facts, and that's where we have a lot of our problems.
Yeah, and something else, parents, for you to think about. Growing up, there was no cell phones, there was no computers, there were no video games, there was nothing like that. So growing up, it was always, get out the house. Yeah, you're gonna be out the house. You're gonna be in the yard. You're gonna be in the neighborhood. You're gonna be out the house. You're not gonna sit around here and watch TV. You got to go. You got to do something, which forced us to allowed us to be in relationship with our neighbors, to run, to play, to learn how to do sports. But now everything is so geared towards video games on your phone. Children now spend. They were talking about how they spend hours and hours and hours at home in a room playing video games.
Yeah, but there's a lot of money that you can make playing video games. There's a lot you can learn playing a video game about hand and eye coordination. There's a lot that you can learn about the way the game operates. You can be a person that is a beta tester or an alpha tester. So there's a lot that you can do by learning the skill of playing video games. There's a lot you can learn through having your phone. So I don't think that all of this is because we got video games and cell phones.
No, I'm not saying that's all of it.
I don't think that that's all of it, because that this kind of technology is very helpful in so many ways, but it's like everything else. But what do we talk about? Everything in moderation. And so it's about parenting. It's about how are you parenting? Because I bet you at my house, you wouldn't have a child in a room. First of all, in my house, you couldn't even close the door, but you can't lock it.
Right.
I wish you would lock the door. My dad said, where you go? You don't own nothing up in this house. And so it's about the parenting. So let's talk about that. I don't want to demonize the technology, because I don't think that that's always to blame for everything, because there is some good that we can get out of it. But how are you handling your children in your home? That becomes the question for me.
Right. Hey, we got to get out of here over time. So thank you for tuning in today to the workplace. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Please make sure that you can give a pledge or donation to KV at 88.3 FM. Any final words?
If we are going to live in a world that is more just, we have got to learn how to live and love differently.
Okay. See y'all later.